Hey there, fellow fungus fans or soon to be fans. Get ready for a deep dive into the fascinating world of fungi, that mighty kingdom that's way more than just mushrooms on pizza. When I first wrapped my head around this information, I was floored by how essential these weird and wonderful organisms are. Let's break it all down. Meet the kingdom of fungi. Fungi comes from the Latin word fungus, meaning mushroom. Fungi comes from fungus, meaning mushroom. But trust me, fungi are much more than just button mushrooms in your grocery stores. Scientists have named over 135,000 species of fungi, but estimates suggest there could be 1.5 million or more lurking out there. The familiar mushroom over here is one kind, and here is a brightly colored coral fungus. Fungi are part of eukarya. Like us, fungi have a true nucleus, plus all the other fancy eukaryotic organelles like the endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria, or Golgi apparatus. They're actually closer relatives to animals than they are to plants, and that includes us humans. Wild, right? Unlike plants, fungi can't harness sunlight to make food. They rely on external digestion, breaking down organic matter in the environment. Some reproduce only asexually, while others do both asexual and sexual reproduction. Most fungi produce large numbers of spores that are disseminated by the wind. You can see that here in this aspergillus, what a difficult name again. This fungi is a toxic fungi and is mostly found in soil and plants. Fungi are great at recycling organic material, wood, dead critters, etc. They turn it into simpler stuff that other organisms can reuse. Fungi form all sorts of relationships. Some are mutualistic, good for both parties, and some are parasitic, bad news for the host. Dutch elm disease, for example, absolutely devastated the iconic American elm. For humans, fungal infections can be tough to treat because fungi are eukaryotes. Antibiotics, which target prokaryotes, don't work on them. That's why your doc might prescribe special antifungals if you get a fungal infection. Fungi are commercial superstars. Yeasts give us bread, beer, and wine. Seriously, thank fungi the next time you enjoy a pizza or a glass of Chianti. Fungi also produce useful enzymes and antibiotics. Hello, penicillin. The inside of a fungus cell is eukaryotic all the way. A true nucleus houses the genetic material and protects it. It also has mitochondria for energy production and no chloroplasts, since they're not photosynthesizing. The cell wall is made of chitin and glucose. They are both complex polysaccharides. We also find chitin in the exoskeleton of insects. Cell membrane is stabilized by ergosterol, a steroid molecule like cholesterol found in our cells. Some fungi, the most primitive ones, produce flagellated gametes. Many fungi display bright colors. The pigments are associated with the cell walls and protect the organism against UV radiation. Some of the pigments are toxic, as this beautiful Amanita muscaria with its bright red cap. The vegetative body of a fungus is called a thallus. It can be unicellular or multicellular. Unicellular fungi are generally referred to as yeasts. Baker's yeasts and Candida species are examples. Most familiar mushrooms are multicellular. Dimorphic fungi can flip between yeast form and multicellular form, depending on the environment. The multicellular fungi display two distinct morphological stages. The mushroom we see is the reproductive structure that develops during the reproductive stage. Most of their life cycle is spent on the ground and hidden to us. This body part of the fungi is called the hyphae. It is the vegetative morphological stage of fungi. Hyphae are made of slender thread-like structures that form tangles, which we call mycelium. Mycelia can grow huge. The giant Armillaria ostoyae, or honey mushroom, easier to say that, is considered the largest organism on Earth. It lives in Oregon and is over 2,000 acres large. And get this, they estimate it is at least 2,500 years old. Now that's a humongous fungus. Most fungal hyphae are divided into separate cells by walls called septa. Tiny holes in those septa allow nutrients to pass from cell to cell. They are described as perforated septa. Some are not separated by septa. They are formed by large cells containing many nuclei. Bread mold is an example. We call them coenzytic hyphae. Fungi often prefer moist, slightly acidic spots. They are not picky and can handle light and dark environments. Many are obligate aerobes and need oxygen. Some are obligate anaerobes. Oxygen is toxic to them. Yeast can do both. They grow best in the presence of oxygen, but can use fermentation when oxygen is not present. The alcohol and bubbles in beer are both from yeast fermentation. The reproductive stage in fungi can be both sexual or asexual. Fungi produce spores in both. They are smaller and lighter than plant seeds and can either float through the wind or ride on animals. Some fungi release trillions of spores at a time. This giant puffball over here, see this, releases a cloud of spores when it reaches maturity. Fungi are heterotrophs, just like us. They can't make their own food and need organic carbon from other living or dead organisms. Digestion happens outside the cell first. Fungi release exoenzymes to break down stuff. They then absorb the resulting molecules. It's like external pre-chewing of their meals. Fungi are sarpros, which is a fancy way of saying they feed on dead organic matter. This is why they're such good decomposers, especially for stubborn stuff like linings and cellulose, which are plant cell wall components. Some fungi even help with bioremediation, breaking down diesel oil, pesticides, or heavy metals. Fungi are diverse and contain 4 main divisions. They were established according to their mode of sexual reproduction. Others that don't sexually reproduce are placed in a 5th division, and the ones that don't fit anywhere else get their own 6th division. Of course, not all mycologists agree with this scheme. Let's now talk about when fungi are parasites, pathogens, or in a few cases even predators. Plant diseases can ruin crops and bring widespread famine. Many crop diseases are fungal pathogens. They cause tissue decay and eventually death of the host. They also spoil crops by producing potent toxins. Fungi are also responsible for food spoilage and the rotting of stored crops. Ergot, for example, can wreck cereals, especially rye. It reduces its yields, but more troubly, it produces an alkaloid toxin that causes convulsion, hallucinations, gangrene, and the loss of milk in cattle. The active ingredient of the toxin is a precursor to the drug LSD. Aflatoxin from aspergillus are dangerous and can contaminate nuts, grains, leading to massive recalls. Animal and human infections. Fungal diseases are mycoses. These can be cutaneous, like an athlete's foot or a ringworm, or systemic, involving internal organs such as valley fever or histoplasmosis. They most commonly enter the body through the respiratory system. In valley fever, which is commonly found in the southwestern US, Spores in the dust are inhaled and develop in the lungs. They cause signs and symptoms similar to tuberculosis. Histoplasmosis causes a pulmonary infection, sometimes swelling of the membranes of the brain and spinal cord. Treatment requires antifungal medication that can have severe side effects. Antibiotics don't work since fungi are eukaryotes. Opportunistic mycosis are either common in all environments or part of the normal biota. They affect individuals with compromised immune systems. Late-stage AIDS patients, for example, suffer pneumocystis. The yeast Candida is common in the natural biota and can grow unchecked if the pH, the immune system defenses, or the normal population of bacteria is altered, causing yeast infections of the vagina, mouth. We call that the oral thrush. Some fungi may take on predatory lifestyle. This happens mostly in the soil when nitrogen is poor. Some fungi trap and eat tiny nematodes called roundworm. They trap them, and for example, with constricting rings within their network of hyphae. The rings swell when the ringworm touches it and traps it. Specialized hyphae then penetrate the ringworm and digest it. How innovative is that? Along with bacteria, fungi are top-level decomposers. They break down dead stuff, recycle nutrients, and keep the life cycle turning. They also form mycorrhizae. The word means mushroom root. They are fungi that grow with plant roots, helping plants soak up water and minerals while getting sugars in return. Over 80 to 90% of plants need these fungal bodies. Lichens are pioneer organisms that colonize barren, lifeless rock surfaces. They display a range of colors and textures. Lichens are a marriage between a fungus and an algae or cyanobacterium. They reach their hyphae around the green partners. Lichens then leach nutrients from the rock and slowly break it down, creating soil, which then supports new life. They can handle extreme environments, tundra, bare branches, for example, and some caribou even munch on them in the winter. Fungi also have evolved mutualistic relationships with insects. A great one stands out, where ants literally farm fungi. They cut discs of leaves from plants and pile them up in gardens. They then cultivate fungi in these gardens. The fungi get to digest the cellulose the ants cannot, and the ants then get a meal from the now smaller sugar molecules. How ingenious these ants are. Other arthropods host protective fungi that shield them from parasites and predators. The mycorrhizal relationship between fungi and plants is also very, very essential for the productivity of farmlands. Without the fungal partners in the root systems, 80 to 90% of trees and grasses would not survive. We also eat plenty of mushroom species, everything from common button mushrooms to fancy truffles. Molds from the genus Penicillin ripen many cheeses. They originate in the natural environment, such as the caves of Roquefort, France, where wheels of sheep milk cheese are stacked to capture the mold responsible for the blue veins in that cheese and also the pungent taste. We already mentioned the fermentation magic yeast provides on alcohols and bread, for example. Antibiotics, like penicillin, originally came from fungi. Other fungi produce cyclosporine, which is used to help with organ transplants. They also produce steroid precursors and all sorts of medical important compounds. So that's the tour of the fungi kingdom, spanning from your standard grocery store mushroom to mysterious underground giants that can cover acres of forest floors. Their talents range from brewing beer to decimating elm trees. Thank you for watching, and see you again soon.